On this edition of Whether or Not, we have some nature and news stories involving a T-Rex, the Arctic sea ice changes, and also how a tropical cyclone impacted Brazil. Patrick Wright also has a feature about how climate change is impacting our national parks. All that and more, Whether or Not, starts right now. Welcome to tonight's show. I'm your host, Mike Susko.
And I'm your forecaster, Jacob Morse.
So, Jacob, we've been stuck in some cold weather the last couple of days here. I don't know about you, but I'm getting sick of the cold. Please tell me we have changes on the way.
I'm getting a little sick of it, too, and I do have some good news for you. We might reach 60 degrees by the second half of the weekend, so I'll have more details on that in the forecast in a little bit.
All right. But before that, we have nature in the news.
Spring 2019 is expected to be filled with more historic and widespread flooding in the central United States due to above-average precipitation across much of the lower 48, according to NOAA's spring outlook. Wetter-than-average conditions combined with spring snowmelt will likely prolong and expand the flooding that is currently occurring in the central and southern United States. The area under the highest risk of moderate to major flooding, according to NOAA, includes the entire Mississippi River Basin. Additionally, NOAA thinks that this could be a potentially unprecedented flood season in the central United States. Closer to home, NOAA predicts that eastern and southern Pennsylvania have a 50% chance of experiencing minor flooding this spring. NOAA's flood outlook closely aligns with their spring precipitation outlook, where the entire lower 48 is expected to see above average precipitation from April through June.
Exciting news for all you Jurassic Park fans out there. The world's largest T-Rex has been discovered in Canada. Known as Scotty, paleontologists from the University of Alberta said the creature was over 13 meters or 39 feet long and weighed over 8,800 kilograms, which is over 19,000 pounds. Scotty was actually discovered in 1991, but the limestone that encased the skeleton was so thick and hard, it took decades to remove. Only recently were scientists actually able to fully assemble and study the bones. Tests estimate Scotty roamed the Earth about 66 million years ago.
On this past Sunday, history was made in the southern Atlantic Ocean when Tropical Storm Iba formed off the coast of Brazil. Iba is the first tropical storm to form in the South Atlantic Ocean since all the way back in 2010. The Brazilian Navy Hydrographic Center named this storm on Sunday when it was centered about 500 miles northeast of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Computer models suggest that Iba is not expected to become a hurricane and it presents no direct threat to land. Before the start of the 21st century, no hurricane had ever been confirmed in the South Atlantic Ocean, and scientists actually believed that tropical cyclones were completely absent from the South Atlantic. But recent research within the past 10 years found that subtropical cyclones off of the Brazilian coast are actually quite common. The research found that on average, about one of these subtropical cyclones forms each year in the South Atlantic. Subtropical cyclones differ from purely tropical cyclones since subtropical storms are usually cold core in the upper atmosphere and are often associated with an upper level low or trough. Subtropical cyclones share some characteristics with tropical cyclones and other characteristics with extratropical cyclones. Since Iba is purely a tropical cyclone, it is rather unusual for it to form in this part of the Atlantic Ocean.
The Arctic ice cover has reached its peak for the 2019 winter season. According to scientists at the National Snow and Ice Data Center, the sea ice reached its maximum on March 13th. Every year, as the northern hemisphere transitions into fall and winter, the Arctic Ocean freezes over. The extent of the freeze is highly sensitive to the air and ocean water temperature changes. And according to the National Snow and Ice Data Center, 5.71 million square miles of the Arctic was frozen, which is 332,000 square miles below the average between 1981 and 2010. As our planet continues to warm, the Arctic is expected to see the biggest temperature increase over the next few decades, decreasing the seasonal sea ice extent even more.
Hello everyone, I'm meteorologist Jacob Morse here with your Central Pennsylvania forecast. After experiencing mostly dry conditions for the majority of this week, we'll be seeing some precipitation move into our area for the weekend. With this wetter weather, we'll be seeing more mild temperatures. Temperatures could climb up to 60 degrees by Saturday. I'll have more details on that in a little bit. But first, starting off with your Friday surface map, winds will be out of the south on Friday, boosting temperatures up to well above average for this time of year. Our warm front will be stationed off to our north and west. Some shower activity will be associated with this warm front. However, these showers will be rather widespread in nature, so any showers that do make it here into central Pennsylvania will be in the afternoon or evening hours, and it won't be a complete washout by any means for Friday. Come Saturday, that low pressure system moves off to the north and east. The winds will still be out of the south, creating those mild conditions. Temperatures, again, will be well above average for this time of year. I think the precipitation stays off to our west and to our north, so we'll be experiencing mostly dry conditions for the day on Saturday, but things will change come Sunday as a cold front will cross the state. Temperatures will drop off rather significantly behind this cold front, and a few snow showers are possible in the higher elevations of central and south central Pennsylvania. However, the majority of the precipitation throughout the day on Sunday will be in the form of rain, and most of that will fall in the afternoon or evening hours. Here's breaking it down into the forecast for you. On Friday, warming up to a high of 59 degrees, above average for this time of year. Any of those showers that do occur will most likely be in the afternoon or evening hours, but once again, not a complete washout by any means. Friday night, a mild night, a low of 46 degrees with mostly cloudy skies. Saturday, warming up to a high of 65, our warmest day in quite some time, well above average for this time of year. Our average highs should be in the low 50s. A few showers possible late in the day, but I think we stay mostly dry on Saturday. And then Sunday, only a high of around 45 as that cold front passes through. Showers likely throughout the day, and then a few snow showers possible, especially in the higher elevations as we get into the evening and overnight hours. Patrick Wright has a feature coming up next about how climate change will impact our national parks.
We have all at some point stepped foot into the part of America run by the National Park Service, which has worked to keep our national parks free from the further development of man. Whether it's hiking in the forest, a picnic by the river, or walking through our land's cultural history, all of us observing in awe the beauty around us and the history and significance the lands hold. The mission of the National Park Service is to focus on eliminating exotic species while restoring native ones, and to preserve the history and natural processes taking place within the parks. As a result of this, the national parks themselves are becoming the first noticeable battleground of man-made climate change here in America. Jonathan Darvis, the former National Parks Director, believes, quote, climate change is the biggest challenge the National Park Service has ever faced, close quote, in its 100-year history. Parks such as Yellowstone, Glacier National Park, Yosemite, and Fort Jefferson in the Florida Keys, just to name a few, are being used not only as a way to preserve the land and history itself, but as a baseline for future climate change impacts. Fort Jefferson, which currently sits at sea level, and with forecasted sea level rise, the fort is expected to not be maintainable within the next 50 to 75 years. Out west, national parks impacted by wildfires have noticed not only more extreme wildfire seasons, but a change in how the burn scars recover. Some areas report seeing what would be considered exotic species move into an area as climate refugees. One of the national parks experiencing some of the most profound and noticeable changes as a result of climate change is Glacier National Park. When the park was created in 1919, there were 150 glaciers within its borders. Today, less than 27 remain. It is expected within a few decades the glaciers within the park will completely disappear. Since 1991, climate studies have been taking place inside the park, focusing on the impacts of climate change on mountain ecosystems.
The highest mountains with the glaciers on the top to the valley bottom with the stream insects and the trout responding to this whole ecosystem change that in turn is responding to climate variability and climate change shows you that everything is an integrated whole.
With the loss of the glaciers in the park, it is expected the organisms that rely on them will either leave or struggle to survive. The transformation that has taken place within Glacier National Park, which is expected to occur in many other regions around the globe and in many different ways, has or will occur over a long period of time, leaving the generations of today, who are just stepping out into the world, seeing these marvels for the first time without any idea of the changes taking place. It is feared that with these changes, we could lose some of the delicate ecosystems that make our land unique, and watch as some of the history of our culture disappears into the sands of time with a shove from mankind. For Whether or Not, I'm Patrick Wright.
Hello everyone, I'm back with your extended forecast. After experiencing a rather wet weekend here in Pennsylvania, we'll be seeing conditions dry out for the week next week to start April. But first, let's recap your weekend forecast. On Friday, a few showers possible. Most of those will be in the afternoon or evening hours if they did occur. Temperature of around 59 degrees, which is above average for this time of year. On Saturday, we'll be warming up to 65 degrees for our high, well above average for this time of year. A few showers possible on Saturday, but I think we stay mostly dry. Sunday is when we see our greatest chance of precipitation, with a high only at around 45 degrees as a cold front passes through. And then Sunday night into Monday, a low below freezing. But then as we look at our extended forecast heading into next week, we'll start off very sunny Monday, mostly sunny with a high in the mid-40s. For Tuesday and into Wednesday, we'll be on a gradual warming trend as temperatures approach and then get above average by the time we get to Thursday. We'll stay mostly dry throughout the week. By the time we get to the end of the week, that's when we could see a chance for a few spotty showers on Thursday or Friday, but nonetheless, a rather calm week across the Commonwealth.
So, Jacob, I see the warmer weather will be moving in, so my prayers with the cold ending is at least going to come true next week, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll be on a warming trend throughout the week next week, so we'll be seeing some warmer weather by the end of next week. So, yes, you'll be enjoying that warmer weather, I'm sure, Mike. And our extended forecast period does include the first week of April, which includes April Fool's Day, which is April 1st.
And speaking of April Fool's Day, earlier in the show we asked you what is the record high temperature on April Fool's Day in State College? A, 69 degrees, B, 74 degrees, C, 77 degrees, or D, 80 degrees. And if you answered the letter D, 80 degrees, you are correct. No joke about this one because the highest temperature ever recorded on April Fool's Day was 80 degrees set back in 2010. The average high temperature for April Fool's Day in State College is 54 degrees.
Early spring is known for having wild temperature swings here in central Pennsylvania, and the record low for April 1st in State College is a mere 15 degrees, which occurred all the way back in 1911. Good thing we're not experiencing that record low. I would much rather have that record high, but we'll be somewhere in the middle, it looks like, for our April Fool's Day forecast.
Yes, certainly not looking forward to any more 15-degree weather days. Hopefully, spring will be sticking around, and as we head closer to summer, we'll be seeing more of that warmer weather, and eventually we'll get to that 80-degree mark.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all the time we have for tonight's show. I'm your host, Mike Susko.
And I'm your forecaster, Jacob Morse.
Have a good night, everyone.